Natalie Chen adjusted the delicate silver necklace around her neck as she stepped into the rooftop venue. The evening air carried a gentle warmth, and the city lights below created a stunning backdrop for the charity event. She had chosen a navy blue cocktail dress that made her feel confident, though she still felt slightly out of place among the wealthy donors and business executives gathered here tonight. Working as a marketing coordinator at Sterling Industries had given Natalie opportunities she never imagined possible. Her boss, Julian Hawthorne, had invited her to accompany him to this event, celebrating innovations in education technology. At 35 years old, Julian had built his fortune from scratch, turning a small software startup into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. His reputation for being brilliant, demanding, and surprisingly kind had drawn Natalie to accept the position 3 years ago. Julian appeared beside her, looking effortlessly elegant in a charcoal gray suit. His hazel eyes reflected the ambient lighting as he scanned the crowd with the practiced ease of someone comfortable in any social setting. His dark brown hair was styled simply, and there was something about his presence that commanded respect, without arrogance. "Thank you for being here tonight," Julian said, his voice carrying genuine appreciation. "I know these events can feel overwhelming, but your insights always help me navigate the conversations better." Natalie smiled, feeling the familiar flutter in her chest that she had learned to ignore over the years. "Someone has to make sure you remember to eat between all the networking." He laughed, that warm sound that always made her feel valued. Throughout their professional relationship, Julian had treated her as an equal partner in ideas, often crediting her marketing strategies for the company's recent growth. She had never felt like just an employee with him, which made maintaining professional boundaries both easier and infinitely harder. They moved through the gathering, Julian introducing her to various associates. Natalie provided subtle reminders about names and previous meetings, a skill she had perfected over countless similar events. She had become his silent support system, the person who made his professional life flow smoothly while remaining largely invisible to others. The ghost from her past, a familiar voice, cut through the ambient music and conversation. Natalie felt her entire body tense before she even turned around. That voice had once whispered promises of forever, then later accusations of inadequacy. Trevor Walsh stood 15 feet away, his arm around a stunning woman with glossy black hair and a dress that probably cost more than Natalie's monthly rent. Trevor looked exactly as she remembered, with his perfectly styled blonde hair and that confident smile that had once made her heart race. Now it just made her stomach turn. Beside him, Vanessa Park posed with the practiced grace of someone used to cameras and attention. Natalie recognized her from social media, a lifestyle influencer with millions of followers who documented her luxury travels and designer wardrobe. Trevor's eyes locked onto Natalie's, and something like triumph flashed across his face. He guided Vanessa toward them with deliberate purpose. "Natalie Chen," Trevor said, his tone dripping with false friendliness. "What a surprise to see you here. I did not think this crowd was your usual scene." Natalie forced herself to remain calm, though her hands trembled slightly. "Hello, Trevor." "This is Vanessa," he continued, pulling his girlfriend closer. "Vanessa, this is Natalie, my ex-girlfriend. We dated for about 4 years before I realized we wanted different things from life." The casual cruelty in his words hit exactly as intended. During their relationship, Trevor had systematically made Natalie feel small, constantly criticizing her choices and ambitions. He had called her boring, unimaginative, and too focused on stability instead of dreams. When he left her 6 months ago, he said she would never amount to anything significant. "Nice to meet you," Vanessa said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Trevor mentioned you work in marketing. How sweet. Are you with an agency or doing freelance work?" "She works as a coordinator," Trevor answered before Natalie could speak. Still at that same company, right? Sterling something? I remember you were so excited about that entry-level position. The dismissive tone made Natalie's face flush. She had not been entry-level in over 2 years, but Trevor made it sound like she had accomplished nothing since their breakup. And you, Natalie? Trevor continued, his eyes scanning her dress. Still living in that tiny apartment downtown? I remember you never wanted to take risks or invest in improving your situation, always playing it safe. Natalie opened her mouth to respond, but words failed her. All the old insecurities came flooding back, drowning her confidence. She felt 17 again, small and worthless, exactly how Trevor had always made her feel. The moment. Everything shifted, then she felt it. A warm, solid presence behind her, followed by a gentle hand settling on her waist. Julian's voice came close to her ear, intimate and tender, in a way she had never heard from him before. Sorry for the delay, sweetheart, he said smoothly, pulling, her back against his chest. The auction coordinator needed to confirm our donation. Natalie froze, her mind struggling to process what was happening. Julian's arm wrapped around her waist with easy familiarity, as though they had stood this way 1,000 times before. His thumb traced a small circle against her hip, a gesture so natural it seemed impossible that this was the first time. Julian. Hawthorne, he said, extending his free hand to Trevor while keeping Natalie close. Natalie's boyfriend. Pleasure to meet you. Trevor's expression transformed from smugness to shock. Vanessa's eyes widened with recognition. Everyone in the business world knew Julian Hawthorne. His face appeared regularly in financial magazines and news articles about successful young entrepreneurs. Boyfriend? Trevor stammered, looking between, them with obvious disbelief. Since when? You never mentioned dating anyone when we were together. We met through work, Natalie heard herself say, finding strength in Julian's steady presence. It developed naturally over time. Julian Hawthorne, Vanessa whispered, clearly impressed despite herself. I read about your latest venture in business. Insider. The education technology platform is revolutionary. Thank you, Julian replied graciously. Then he turned to Natalie, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. Though I cannot take full credit, Natalie's marketing genius and strategic thinking made it all possible. Her campaign concepts increased our user engagement by 300%. Natalie stared at him, shocked. While she had contributed to those campaigns, she never expected Julian to credit her so publicly, especially not to strangers. How impressive, Trevor said, though his tone suggested skepticism. I had no idea you were capable of that level. Of work, Natalie, you always seem so content with simple, uncomplicated tasks. People grow when they are given the opportunity and support, Julian said, his voice maintaining politeness, but with an underlying steel. Natalie has always been exceptional. Some people just need the right environment to shine. The subtle dig at Trevor was not lost on anyone. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably, and Trevor's jaw tightened. Before anyone could respond, Julian did something that stopped time completely. He turned Natalie in his arms, cupped her face with both hands, and kissed her. The world tilted on its axis. This was not a quick peck or a performative gesture. Julian kissed her like she was precious, like she mattered, like she was the only person in the entire city. His lips moved against hers with a tenderness that made her knees weak. And without thinking, Natalie found herself responding, her hands gripping his jacket as she kissed him back. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Julian looked at her with an intensity that seemed to see straight into her soul. The rooftop, the guests, Trevor and Vanessa, everything faded away. There was only this moment, only the feeling of being cherished and wanted. Shall we check on the auction items? Julian asked softly, his hand finding hers and intertwining their fingers. Natalie nodded, not trusting her voice. As they walked away, she could feel Trevor's stunned gaze following them, but for the first time in 6 months, she did not care what he thought. Something fundamental had just shifted between her and Julian, and Natalie knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Natalie spent the entire night replaying the kiss in her mind. She tossed and turned in her bed, unable to quiet the whirlwind of emotions swirling through her chest. The way Julian's hands had felt cradling her face, the warmth of his lips against hers, the protective way he had held her, as if she was something precious that needed safeguarding. It had felt so genuine, so real, that she almost forgot it had been a performance designed to protect her from Trevor's cruelty. Her phone buzzed at 7 in the morning. A message from Julian appeared on the screen, simple and direct. "Can we meet? There's a cafe on Maple Street. 8 o'clock?" Natalie's heart hammered as she typed her response. "I'll be there." She spent the next 40 minutes agonizing over her outfit, finally settling on a soft cream sweater and jeans. She wanted to look casual, approachable, not like someone who had spent the entire night obsessing over a kiss that probably meant nothing to him. The cafe was tucked away from the busy downtown streets, a quiet space with exposed brick walls and the comforting aroma of fresh coffee. Julian was already seated at a corner table when she arrived, looking different than she had ever seen him. He wore dark jeans and a simple gray Henley shirt, his hair slightly tousled as though he had also spent a restless night. The sight of him in casual clothes made him seem more human, more accessible, and somehow even more attractive. He stood as she approached, pulling out her chair with the same gentlemanly care he always showed. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice carrying a note of nervousness she rarely heard. "I ordered your usual vanilla latte with extra foam." Natalie's heart squeezed. He always remembered the small details, the things that made her feel seen and valued. The confession and uncomfortable silence stretched between them, so different from their usual easy rapport. Julian's fingers drummed against his coffee cup. A tell she had learned meant he was processing something difficult. "About last night," he finally began, meeting her eyes with an earnest expression. "I owe you an explanation and an apology. I should not have put you in that position without asking permission first. When I saw that man treating you so dismissively, making you feel inadequate, something in me just reacted. It was inappropriate, and I am sorry." Natalie felt her chest tighten with disappointment. Of course he was apologizing. The kiss had been nothing more than a kind gesture, a way to rescue her from humiliation. She had been foolish to imagine it meant anything more. "You don't need to apologize," she said quietly, focusing on her coffee to avoid his gaze. "You were being kind. Trevor always had a talent for making me feel worthless, and you saved me from complete embarrassment. I appreciate what you did." "That man is an absolute fool," Julian said with conviction. "Anyone who made you feel anything less than extraordinary does not deserve a single moment of your time or thought." The intensity in his voice made Natalie look up. Julian was watching her with an expression she could not quite decipher, something vulnerable and uncertain. "The thing is," he continued, his voice dropping lower, "that kiss was not entirely for show. I have wanted to do that for longer than I care to admit." Natalie's breath caught in her throat. "What?" Julian leaned forward, his hazel eyes holding hers with complete honesty. "Natalie, I have had feelings for you for almost 2 years now, real feelings that go far beyond our professional relationship. But I never said anything because of the power dynamic between us. I did not want to make you uncomfortable or jeopardize your career. I convinced myself it was inappropriate, impossible, that I should just bury these emotions and focus on work." "You have feelings for me?" Natalie whispered, her mind struggling to process his words. "Yes," he said simply. "Strong feelings. Last night, when I had an excuse to hold you, to kiss you, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. But I understand if this complicates everything." I can arrange a transfer to a different department if that would make you more comfortable. Your career and well-being matter more than my feelings." Natalie sat back, overwhelmed. For 2 years, she had carefully hidden her attraction to Julian, convinced that her feelings were one-sided and unprofessional. She had spent countless hours reminding herself of all the reasons why nothing could ever happen between them. The gap between their worlds, their positions in the company, the risk to her career. "I have feelings for you too," she heard herself. "Confess," the words tumbling out before fear could stop them. "I have for a very long time, but I thought you saw me as just your coordinator, just another employee who helps manage your schedule." Julian's face transformed, hope lighting his features. "Never just anything. You are brilliant, creative, and you challenge me to think differently every single day. You make me want to be better, not just in business, but as a person." They stared at each other across the small table. Years of unspoken attraction suddenly laid bare between them. The cafe buzzed with morning customers around them, but Natalie felt like they existed in their own private bubble. The proposal. "So, what do we do now?" Natalie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Julian took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for what came next. "I have an idea, though you might think it strange. The story is already out there. People saw us together at the gala last night. By now, half the city probably knows about us through social media and society pages. What if we continued the relationship publicly for a while? It gives us time to explore these feelings without the immediate pressure of defining everything or dealing with company policies." "You want us to fake date?" Natalie asked, trying to understand. "I want us to really date," Julian corrected gently, "but with the cover of people thinking we have been together longer than we actually have. It protects both of us professionally. If things work out between us, wonderful. If they do not, we can say we realized we worked better as colleagues. Neither of our careers gets damaged by office gossip or speculation. It was logical, strategic, very much like Julian's approach to business problems. But Natalie could see the vulnerability beneath the practical suggestion. He was just as scared, as she was about risking everything they had built together. "Okay," she agreed softly. "Let's try this." Julian's smile was radiant, transforming his usually serious features. He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. The simple touch sent warmth flooding through her entire body. "Then let's do this right," he said. "Natalie Chen, would you like to have dinner with me tonight? A real date? Just the two of us, no crowds or performances?" Natalie laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. "I would love that. Public performances." The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of carefully orchestrated public appearances and unexpectedly genuine private moments. Julian and Natalie attended charity events, business dinners, and gallery openings together. His hand was always possessive on her back, their touches natural and affectionate. To the outside world, they looked like a couple deeply in love. Behind closed doors, they were learning each other in ways Natalie had never imagined. Julian took her to his favorite bookstore, a hidden gem where they spent hours browsing shelves and debating literature. They cooked dinner together in his apartment, laughing when Natalie accidentally burned the pasta and Julian revealed he could barely boil water. They talked for hours about everything from childhood dreams to fears about the future. With each passing day, the line between performance and reality blurred further. When Julian kissed her goodnight after their dates, it felt less like acting, and more like something essential, something neither of them wanted to stop. At work, they maintained professional boundaries, though Natalie caught Julian watching her during meetings with an expression that made her heart race. The staff began treating her differently, with more respect and deference, though she worked hard to prove she deserved her position based on merit, not her relationship with the boss. Meeting the family 3 weeks into their arrangement, Julian invited Natalie to spend a weekend at his family's estate outside the city. "My mother has been demanding to meet you," he explained with an apologetic smile. She saw photos from the gala and has been calling me daily ever since. Natalie's anxiety spiked. Meeting the family felt like a huge step, one that made their fake relationship feel increasingly real and permanent. The Hawthorne estate was breathtaking, a sprawling property with manicured gardens and a house that looked like something from a historical drama. Julian's mother, Catherine Hawthorne, greeted them at the door with warm enthusiasm. She was elegant and gracious, with the same hazel eyes as her son. "Natalie, it is such a pleasure to finally meet you," Catherine said, embracing her like they were already family. "Julian has told me wonderful things about your work together. The weekend was surprisingly comfortable." Catherine treated Natalie with genuine warmth, asking about her background and interests without any of the judgment Natalie had feared. Julian's younger sister, Olivia, was friendly and funny, teasing her brother mercilessly about finally finding someone who could tolerate his workaholic tendencies. On Saturday evening, Natalie found herself alone with Catherine in the garden. The older woman studied her with kind but perceptive eyes. "My son looks at you the way his father used to look at me," Catherine said softly. "Like you are the center of his universe. I have never seen him this happy, this settled. Whatever you two have together, it is special." Natalie felt tears prick her eyes. The weight of their deception suddenly felt heavy. These people were welcoming her with open hearts, and she was lying to them. "I care about him very much," she said honestly, because that much was absolutely true. "I can see that," Catherine replied with a knowing smile, "and he cares about you. That is all that matters." The second encounter. The following week, Julian and Natalie attended a corporate gala hosted by one of Sterling Industries' major partners. The event was lavish, held in a historic hotel ballroom with crystal chandeliers and an orchestra playing classical music. Natalie wore a deep red dress that Julian had surprised her with, claiming the color would look stunning against her dark hair. When she emerged from the dressing room, the look in his eyes had made her feel beautiful in a way she never had before. They were halfway through dinner when Natalie spotted familiar faces across the room. Trevor and Vanessa, apparently making the rounds of high society events. Her stomach dropped, but Julian's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently in support. Trevor approached their table with Vanessa in tow, his expression a mixture of curiosity and something that looked like jealousy. "Natalie." "Julian," he said with forced casualness. "Fancy seeing you two here. Still going strong, I see." "Stronger every day," Julian replied smoothly, his arm sliding around Natalie's shoulders. "How are things with you?" Trevor's smile tightened. "Actually, I have been meaning to reach out, Natalie. I heard through mutual friends that you have been quite successful lately. I wanted to say congratulations. I always knew you had potential." The patronizing tone made Natalie's blood boil. He had spent years telling her she would never succeed, and now he wanted to take credit for believing in her potential? "Thank you," she said coolly. "Though I think we both know you did not see any potential in me when we were together. You made that very clear." Trevor had the grace to look uncomfortable. Vanessa shifted beside him, clearly sensing the tension. "Well, people change," Trevor said. "Maybe I made mistakes. Maybe I should have been more supportive." "Maybe you should have," Natalie agreed. "But I am grateful you were not, because it led me exactly where I needed to be." She looked up at Julian as she spoke, and the warmth in his eyes made her chest tight with emotion. This was not part of their act anymore. This was real. Monday morning arrived with unexpected chaos. Natalie walked into Sterling Industries to find the office buzzing with urgent energy. Julian's assistant, Margaret, intercepted her before she reached her desk. "Thank goodness you are here," Margaret said, her usually calm demeanor replaced with visible stress. "We have a major situation. One of our largest investors is threatening to pull out of the education platform project. Julian has been an emergency Meetings since 6 this morning. Natalie's professional instincts kicked in immediately. What happened? A competitor launched a smear campaign spreading false information about our platform's security. The investor saw the headlines and panicked. Julian needs a crisis management strategy, and he specifically asked for you. Natalie found Julian in the main conference room, surrounded by papers and laptop screens, his tie loosened and exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. When he saw her, relief flooded his features. Natalie, thank you for coming so quickly. He gestured to the seat beside him, and she noticed how his hand trembled slightly from stress and lack of sleep. I need your marketing expertise. We have to counter this false narrative before it destroys everything we have built. For the next 12 hours, they worked side by side, crafting responses, coordinating with legal teams, and developing a comprehensive communication strategy. Natalie watched Julian navigate the crisis with impressive calm, his brilliant mind working through problems with methodical precision. She contributed ideas for media outreach and drafted statements that balanced transparency with reassurance. Around midnight, they finally had a solid plan in place. The conference room had emptied, leaving just the two of them surrounded by coffee cups and scattered documents. Julian leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. I could not have done this without you, he said quietly. Your strategy saved the entire project. We did it together, Natalie replied, feeling the exhaustion catching up with her. That is what partners do. Julian looked at her with an expression that made her heart skip. Partners, he repeated softly. I like the sound of that. He reached for her hand across the table, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. The gesture was becoming familiar, comforting, something she had started to crave. Natalie, these past few weeks with you have been the happiest of my life, Julian said. I know we started this as an arrangement, a way to protect ourselves while we figured things out. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being pretend for me. Every moment with you feels right. Every day I wake up thinking about you. Every decision I make, I wonder what you would think about it. Natalie's breath caught. Julian, I am in love with you, he said simply, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. Completely, absolutely in love with you. Not because of our arrangement, not because of what anyone else thinks, but because you are extraordinary, and being with you makes me want to be extraordinary too. Tears welled in Natalie's eyes. I love you too, she whispered. I think I have loved you for longer than I realized. You make me feel brave and capable and worthy of good things. Julian stood, pulling her into his arms. When he kissed her this time, there was no performance, no audience, no pretense. Just two people who had found something real and precious in the midst of chaos. The exposure. Their happiness lasted exactly 3 days before everything fell apart. Natalie was having lunch with her friend Rachel when her phone began buzzing incessantly. Text messages, social media notifications, and missed calls piled up faster than she could check them. Rachel looked at her own phone and her face went pale. Natalie, you need to see this. She turned her screen around, showing a gossip website, with a headline that made Natalie's stomach drop. Tech CEO's fake romance exposed, Julian Hawthorne's publicity stunt relationship. The article detailed their entire arrangement, claiming that Natalie and Julian had orchestrated a fake relationship for professional gain. It included photos from the gala where they first kissed, alongside text messages that had supposedly been leaked, showing them discussing their performance. Natalie's hands shook as she scrolled through the article. The messages were fabricated, but they were convincing enough to seem real. Someone had gone to considerable effort to make this story believable. Her phone rang. Julian's name appeared on the screen. Natalie, I just saw it. His voice was tight with anger. Someone is trying to sabotage us. Those messages are fake. I am already working with our legal team to issue a statement and find out who is behind this. Julian, this could destroy your reputation, Natalie said, her voice shaking. Your investors, your business partners, they will all see this. I do not care about any of that, Julian said firmly. I care about you. Are you okay? Before she could answer, another notification popped up. A video had been posted on social media. Natalie's heart sank as she recognized the person in the thumbnail. Trevor. Trevor's revenge. The video showed Trevor speaking directly to the camera with the expression of false concern. I feel compelled to speak out about something that has been bothering me. I recently encountered my ex-girlfriend Natalie Chen at a charity event. She was there with Julian Hawthorne, claiming they were in a relationship. But I know Natalie, and something felt off about the whole interaction. He continued, his tone dripping with fake sympathy. Natalie always struggled with self-esteem issues. She was desperate for validation, for success, for recognition. When I saw her with Hawthorne performing this elaborate show of affection, I realized what was happening. She was using him to make herself feel important, to prove something to me and everyone else who knew her as ordinary. Natalie felt sick. Trevor was twisting everything, making her look manipulative and desperate. The comments below the video were already filling with judgmental opinions and cruel speculation. Rachel grabbed her hand. He is lying. Anyone who knows you can see he is lying. But Natalie barely heard her. All the old insecurities came flooding back. Maybe Trevor was right. Maybe she had been using Julian, not consciously, but because she wanted to feel special and valued. Maybe she did not deserve the happiness she had found. Her phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Miss Chen, this is Patricia Monroe from the Daily Business Review. I would like to get your comment on the allegations about your relationship with Julian Hawthorne. Natalie hung up without responding. Within minutes, more calls came from different reporters and media outlets. The story was spreading rapidly, becoming a scandal that threatened to overshadow everything Julian had built. She made a decision. She called Julian back. I am going to end this, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I will issue a statement saying our relationship was a mistake, that I misrepresented things. It will take the pressure off you and the company. Absolutely not, Julian's voice was sharp. We are not letting Trevor win. We are not letting false narratives control our lives. Meet me at the office in an hour. We are going to handle this together. The Grand Declaration Julian had arranged an impromptu press conference in the main lobby of Sterling Industries. Natalie arrived to find reporters already gathering, cameras being set up, and Julian standing at a podium looking determined and unshakable. When he saw her, he immediately came to her side, taking her hand in full view of everyone present. You do not have to do this, Natalie whispered. You can distance yourself from me, protect your reputation. My reputation means nothing without you, Julian said firmly. He turned to address the assembled media, his voice clear and confident. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. I want to address the rumors and allegations that have been circulating today about my relationship with Natalie Chen. The room fell silent. Every camera focused on him. It is true that our relationship began in an unconventional way, Julian continued. At a charity gala several weeks ago, I witnessed someone treating Natalie with disrespect and cruelty. In that moment, I claimed to be her boyfriend to protect her from that treatment. What started as a protective gesture revealed feelings that I had been suppressing for nearly 2 years. Natalie's eyes widened. He was telling the truth, the complete truth, in front of everyone. Yes, we agreed to continue appearing as a couple publicly while we figured out our real feelings privately, Julian said. But there was nothing fake about my emotions. There was nothing calculated or manipulative about falling in love with the most brilliant, compassionate, and extraordinary woman I have ever known. He turned to look at Natalie, his eyes holding hers with absolute certainty. Natalie Chen is not using me for status or validation. I am the fortunate one. She has made me a better person, a better leader, and shown me what it means to be truly seen and valued by another human being. The allegations suggesting otherwise are not just false, they are insulting to a woman of incredible integrity and talent. Julian faced the cameras again. As for the supposed leaked messages, they are fabrications. We are pursuing legal action against whoever created and distributed them. But more importantly, I want to make something absolutely clear. I love Natalie Chen. This is not a publicity stunt or a business arrangement. This is real, and I will not allow anyone to diminish what we have together. The room erupted with questions from reporters, but Julian ignored them all. He turned to Natalie, cupping her face gently. "I should have done this publicly from the start," he said softly, though his voice carried through the lobby. "I should have told the whole world how I feel instead of hiding behind arrangements and protection. Natalie, I love you. Completely, publicly, permanently, if you will have me." Tears streamed down Natalie's face. She was aware of every camera pointed at them, every reporter recording this moment, but none of it mattered. All that mattered was Julian standing before her with his heart laid bare. "I love you too," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "I have been so scared of not being enough, of not deserving this happiness. But you make me believe I am worthy of good things." Julian kissed her then, in front of everyone, a kiss that held promise and commitment and absolute certainty. When they separated, the gathered reporters were silent for a moment before erupting into a chaos of questions and camera flashes. Facing the consequences, the next few days were intense. The video of Julian's declaration went viral, sparking debates about workplace relationships, class differences, and modern romance. Some people criticized them, claiming their relationship was inappropriate given their professional dynamic. Others defended them, calling it a beautiful love story. Sterling Industries Board called an emergency meeting to discuss the situation. Julian sat through hours of questioning about his judgment and the potential impact on the company's reputation. Natalie waited outside the boardroom, her stomach churning with anxiety. When Julian finally emerged, he looked exhausted but relieved. "They have accepted my proposal. You are being promoted to Director of Strategic Marketing, reporting directly to the Chief Marketing Officer instead of to me. It removes the direct power dynamic while recognizing your actual contributions to the company." Natalie stared at him. "But I do not want you to have to restructure the company because of me. This is not just because of us," Julian explained. "You have earned this promotion through your work, your ideas, and your results. The board agreed that you have been operating at a director level for over a year. We are simply making it official and ensuring there are no conflicts of interest." Over the following weeks, the scandal gradually faded from headlines. Julian's legal team traced the fabricated messages back to an account linked to Trevor, resulting in a cease and desist order that effectively silenced him. Vanessa, apparently fed up with Trevor's obsession with his ex-girlfriend, ended their relationship very publicly on social media. Natalie settled into her new role, discovering that she thrived with increased responsibility and authority. Her campaigns continued to drive impressive results, and she began building her own team of talented marketers. The respect she earned was based on her abilities, not her relationship with the CEO. 6 months later, Natalie stood on the balcony of Julian's penthouse, watching the sun set over the harbor. The view was spectacular, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reflected off the water below. She had officially moved in 2 months ago, finally accepting that this was real, that she deserved this happiness. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, and Julian rested his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. "How different everything is now," Natalie said, leaning back against his chest. 6 months ago, I thought I knew what my life would look like. Small apartment, decent job, maybe eventually finding someone who would tolerate me. I never imagined this. You did not need someone to tolerate you, Julian said, turning her in his arms to face him. You needed someone who could see you clearly, who could recognize your brilliance and strength and beauty. I am just grateful I got to be that person. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and Natalie's breath caught. I know this might seem fast to some people, Julian said, opening the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. But I have loved you for 2 years, been with you for 6 months, and I know with absolute certainty that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Natalie Chen. Will you marry me? Natalie laughed through her tears, nodding as she held out her shaking hand. Yes, absolutely yes. As Julian slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her with all the love and promise of their future, Natalie thought about how far she had come. From feeling worthless and small to standing here, confident in her abilities and secure in a love that felt like coming home, Trevor had tried to make her feel inadequate. He had wanted her to believe she would never amount to anything significant. But he had been wrong about everything. Natalie had always been extraordinary. She had just needed someone who could see it, and more importantly, she had needed to see it herself. The fake relationship had become the most real thing in her life. And standing here with Julian, watching the sunset over their city, Natalie knew that sometimes the best love stories are the ones that start with pretending and end with the truest version of yourself. The end.